Alzheimer's Speaks wants to welcome you to a special edition called Dementia Chats, where you will hear directly from the true experts, those living with a form of dementia. Well, welcome everyone to Dementia Chats. We are going to have an interesting conversation today on the topic of dementia and stigma. Has anything changed? What are people's beliefs? What are they seeing out there? And how is stigma affecting them as they live? And ideas on what do we do about it? So for those of you that are new, I'm Lori LeBay. I'm the founder of Alzheimer's Speaks and co-founder of Dementia Map. My mom lived with dementia for 30 years, so I get the whole stigma thing. We're going to go around and have everybody introduce themselves one by one, and then we'll get into the conversation. So Harry, do you want to go ahead and start and introduce yourself?
My name is Harry Irvin. I live in Pennsylvania. I was diagnosed 18 years ago with Alzheimer's, but I'm showing signs of vascular dementia now. And I always try to tell people I have Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's does not have me. And that's something that we have to follow.
Right. Thank you, Harry. Bob, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I was diagnosed with vascular deterioration 6 years ago now, and also Alzheimer's was a great combination for my future. But I've been very, very active. I live in assisted living in a nursing home here in Connecticut. And this organization has provided support for me that's unbelievable. I am on Zoom meetings very frequently, and it's all about telling my story, about other stories about people living with dementia. And I always, like Harry, I always introduce myself as a person living well with dementia. And they sort of snicker.
Okay, great. Thank you. Karen, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Karen. We were just talking about the definition of diagnosis in 2014 is when I was initially diagnosed, and it's changed several times, Alzheimer's, et cetera. So I just prefer to say a mixed dementia, which is bits and pieces of brain change, and you know, they can call it what they want to. I'm not focused on it. And so that's where I am. I'm a member of the Dementia Mentors virtual cafes, DAA and DAI, and also a local Corpus Christi group, dementia friendly community that we're helping to educate, which is great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Kate, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Cate Lau. I'm from Illinois. I was diagnosed 8 years ago with BVFTD, which is frontotemporal degeneration. Discounting the first 2 years where I was misdiagnosed for Alzheimer's. And those 2 years were not good because there are no medication for behavior variant frontotemporal degeneration and all dementias. I don't think there's a cure, but it helps us to live our lives as healthy as we can. Other than that, I want the public to know, or the audience to know, that the diseases that I am going to talk about is not necessarily or are not related to my dementia. We often think that every little thing that happens is dementia, but it's not. I have a condition called hypogammaglobin. It is a blood disorder, and at this point, I'm getting IVIG, and we will see where that goes. And also, I have several kinds of immune diseases and cervical spondylosis myelopathy. So, but not necessarily dementia related. I don't know. The doctors are still working on it. Thank you.
but everything affects everything else, and most people have more than one health issue that they're coping with. That's something that everyone has to be aware of. Lonni, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Lonni Schicker, and I live in High Point, North Carolina. I am diagnosed with Lewy body dementia and have had 4 diagnoses before this one. I think that we all go through that. I was diagnosed originally in 2015, and I have had recently a bit more progression.
Okay, thank you. Dale, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Dr. Dale Anderson. I'm at 88, coming on to 89 this next month. And I have many genetic problems. And I have just like to encourage all of us that genes are not your destiny. Mine started when I was found that I had cholesterol. When I had diabetes, and then my reading dyslexia, I flunked the 4th grade, and then so I had to learn how to read better. My dad also had this, and his whole family of 8 kids, all of them have had cholesterol problems, diabetes problems, and I have the diabetes too, and then of course the Alzheimer thing. And as a physician, that I've seen all of these people get better and get well, it has become very obvious to all your physicians and ask them if genes are your destiny. And I would say, no, genes are not necessarily your destiny. And if I know how to get out of cholesterol, I have great cholesterol now. I've had 1 heart attack, but my cholesterol is in trouble. I have reading dyslexia, and I have a problem with that. I have to read very slowly. And then with all these things together, I would just like to say to myself too, with Alzheimer's, genes are not your destiny.
Okay.
And
Pam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yep. I have vascular dementia, and I've had that not real long. And so it's just kind of trying to figure out, what's going on. I seem to do really well, so that's not a problem, but of course that can change over time. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, thank
for
you. Well, let's go ahead and get started on this topic of stigma. And Bob, I'm going to throw it to you first, if you don't mind. And how do you see stigma affecting you, or do you not deal with it at all?
Well, stigma, kind of interesting. As soon as you're diagnosed, you start to feel stigma immediately. And that's because of all the stigma that's placed upon us by our society. There's something about the word stigma. There's something about the word dementia that immediately treats you in a certain way. What I found initially was even my family would say, well, how do I deal with it? Or they go quiet, or they go loud, or they go here, they go there. Now, it's 6 years now, and I'm living in assisted living. And we have trained what they call CNAs, and 50% of them live with our stigma, and they have no idea. They treat us like kids, like just today, right? Oh, God. And when you're treated like a kid, when you're 90 years old, that goes right to your soul. And that can be, if there's 133 people living here where I live. And if one person is sick, 130 people are treated like they're sick. There are very positive things living here, and I treasure all those positive things. But at night, when you're alone, it's alone.
Well, thank you. I think that that is important that you mentioned family and professionals alike, struggle with stigma. Harry, how about you? What are your thoughts? You've been living with the disease for quite some time.
Stigma is not going to go away until we stand up to it.
Right.
Okay, now, like I said, I've been living with this for 18 years, and I've been fighting that battle. I've been letting my feelings get hurt because of what people think of me. But then I got to a point where I thought to myself, they're not going to do this to me anymore. Okay, I stood up to the stigma. If somebody is, just the other day, we were at Home Depot, and the salesperson was rude. Okay, and I said to him, I says, "Are you just having a bad day, or are you naturally rude to people?" And he was offended. Well, that's what I wanted to. I wanted him to be offended. I wanted him to say that you don't treat people like that. And unfortunately, the pandemic had a lot to do with what we're going through now. Okay, like today, this afternoon is going to be the first time that we have an in-person memory cafe at the hospital after 2 years. Okay, now, we being the advocates of this disease, we have not been out there telling the stories because of the pandemic, and people fell back into the old, well, grandma, grandpa had, so they can't talk, they can't do anything. And I'm here to tell you, I live by example. Now, all indications say I should be dead at 13 years. That's the average, But I gauge somebody on the functionality, what they can do. Now, if you look at my cognitive scores, my cognitive testing, you would say, Harry, you going downhill. But if you look at what I can still do, like I just picked up a new hobby using a 3D printer, and it took me a little bit of time to learn how to do it, but we can learn. We can do things. And I think that's what my mission is now. I lost it. I'm going to be honest with you. Through the pandemic, I lost it, but it's coming. The fire is coming back in me. And we have to do something now to turn this around. This is almost like going back in the very beginning when Alzheimer's just had a bulletin board that if you would ask them a question, it would take them 3 days to respond to it. And we said, there has to be a better way. Well, you know what? We're saying that today. There has to be a better way. And unless we group together and start fighting this stigma, it's never going to go away.
I'm just congratulating Harry because he's very inspirational.
I would agree with that too. You're doing an act, you're getting an act together, and you are on the stage that everybody are watching. So it's learning how to act changes your chemistry and their chemistry.
And I think you brought up a really good point, Harry, that, you know, we were making progress and then COVID hit and everything pulled back. And like you said, a lot of the memory cafes, you know, stopped existing. And I know myself, I got kind of mad going, where is everybody? Where are all these dementia friendly communities? And then I had to like slap myself in the face and go, hey, they're all working 3 jobs in healthcare because they're short staffed and people can only do so much at a time. And a lot, you know, a lot of organizations didn't convert over to virtual. But some of that had to do with, you know, we only thought this was going to last a couple of months. And then here we are, you know, into our 3rd year of this thing. And, you know, things have changed. And I think we have fallen back in some ways, but in other ways, there's been a lot more expansion virtually over the years. Where people are reaching people in a different fashion as well. But you're right, stigma is not going away. We need to get more and more people with dementia talking about this and, you know, what life is really like. Go ahead, Harry.
I kind of disagree with you, Lori, because now I used to have 6 memory cafes a month, 6 different ones, you know. And we would average maybe 40, 50 people at these memory cafes. And then when we stopped, we went to virtual. And I found out that the people that need us can't do virtual. You know, so we sort of put them aside. It's easier if we can get together, have our spouses or care partners bring us in to a public meeting and talk. You know, that's what's going to change, not the education. You know, because unless you live this disease, you have no idea what it's like.
Yeah.
None. You know, I talked to many professional people that know it all. They know the symptoms. They don't know the emotions of this disease.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
We have to get over that part of who cares about the medical part of it. That's not going to change. What will change is how we live.
Well, and it's about looking at abilities and how do you adapt and how do you, like you said, move through those things. And one of the best teachers is talking with people in the trenches, sharing experiences. That's what I see the power of memory cafes being. And I think, you know, in person is always ideal, but there are groups out there that have actually reached more people. So it depends on the dynamics of the groups as well in terms of what's working or what's not. All I know is we've got a lot less of them through COVID that are active virtual or in person. And that's not a good thing. You know, we need even more. And so it's going to be interesting going forward, but there also have been more services coming through online that people were able to tap into, which was helpful for some, but not, like you said, not everybody can, not everyone has internet access or equipment, let alone is able to work it. So, I mean, there's lots of dynamics, you know, at play, you know, with all of that for sure on that. Karen, how about you? What are your thoughts on stigma?
Wow. So I have problems talking lately. I think Lonni had said something about her decline or whatever I've gone through since June about putting my thoughts together and stuff like that. Anyway, the stigma when I first got into advocacy here in Corpus Christi, I was able to speak, and share my story and stuff. And again, my mindset with stigma is education. That education that all I remember when I got diagnosed was my dad was in late stage Alzheimer's, and all I saw was my dad in late stage Alzheimer's. And so I knew my life was over, didn't know one soul. And I've talked about, probably every group I come in, I talk about the support and stuff. But the image I think most people I had is of an older person slumped over in a wheelchair, drooling and, unable to communicate. And so there is no life after diagnosis. And so that's all I saw for myself until I found all of these incredible support groups, advocacy groups, information. But more importantly, like we're talking here, is these workarounds. I'm at a stage I haven't quite accepted my instant memory loss. I haven't figured out the routines that used to work with the asterisks and the alarms and all that kind of stuff. But there is a workaround. I just haven't quite bent into that. And so I keep coming to groups and I'll hear something and I'll pick something up and I'll leave something. And that really, I don't know where I would be without support from people, peers, and people like you, Lori, and groups and cafes and all of that. So it's so important. The stigma, when I share just recently, I lost the sound on my cable day before yesterday. I know it was error on my part. I called my cable guy and I said, hey, I lost the sound on this. I have memory issues. And immediately he said, I just lost my dad last month from Alzheimer's. And so he was able, it was just this whole education of, and so they write on my chart, has memory issues. So if this happens again, even though I wrote it down on a card this time and, all of that, all of the things that we're supposed to do, it's all of these workarounds, all of these ways that I can live life well with my, brain change and do it independently so far. And eventually I'll be able to accept going into assisted living or whatever else. So the stigma is hard. It's more of a teaching moment for me, but I do get really frustrated when they keep on, well, how can you be doing this if you have this kind of thing? I'm sorry.
That questioning of abilities I have found fascinating and frustrating and angers me. And I know many people with dementia have said they've gotten bullied going, well, my husband can't do that, so you shouldn't be able to do that.
Exactly.
You don't really have it. You're just faking it. And when I hear people say that, and I'm like, no one is going to fake dementia. Come on, guys, really, this is not something that you want to have. And I have seen the desperation and the depression and, when people are attacked. But then I also see the groups that surround the peers coming in and lifting people up and go, don't you dare go away. We need your voice. This is just one in a few that is happy, and your voice is very, very important. And so I think that was a wonderful point that you made there, for sure. So thank you. Thank you for all those good tidbits. And there are so many wonderful resources. And again, by sharing voice, that's how we spread the word of all these other services and groups that are available out there to people. We need to let people know that there's hope and there's a place to talk. And if people are listening and you're living with dementia, you can be part of this group. We're not just a little one and done thing. Everyone is welcome to be part of the group and to raise the voice and utilize the platform. And there are others like this as well. So don't be shy, check it out and see what you think. But you have more knowledge than you think you do. Go ahead, Bob.
Can I ask you a question? You've been at this now a number of years, and God bless you for the work you do, because it really, you've saved and it helped so many people. My question is, what is the one thing that people with dementia should do to help to change the stigma? What is the one thing?
They have to get active and speak out. They have to not be afraid, and we will never have enough advocating groups out there. But you know, when I got into this because of my mom's dementia, I was frustrated because there really wasn't much for groups. There was the Alzheimer's Association, and that was it. But there really weren't any other supports like, you know, Dementia Action Alliance, Dementia Minds. There's Dementia Mentors. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on with all the different groups that are out there. And I just felt like we need to connect. We need, as much as I think one of the biggest things that I hear people say is, well, I don't know enough. What can I speak out on? I don't know anything. You're living with the disease. You know a lot. You know what it's actually really like. Everyone else is guessing. So we need to hear your voice. It's extremely powerful, and that's how things change. That's how we grow as a society. That's how we, you know, inch by inch, pound down these stigmas that are out there. And, you know, one of our biggest stigmas when I first got in here was, I think it was Creaky mentioned it, that everyone thought you had to be old in a wheelchair, you know, and drooling, and you don't communicate, and you're living in a nursing home. Well, look at you guys. Not one of you fits that, you know, and there's many, many, many others out there that in people, even in early stages, that are still driving, still working. You know, so we have to change what this disease is. It's not like, well, it's kind of like old time cancer. You know, it was one thing, and now all of a sudden there's all these different types of cancers that have different outcomes, that have different symptoms, that have different treatments. And, you know, we're finally starting to understand that more, but we are in the really initial stages. I mean, even just for us, I think one of the big things in terms of stigma that's changed since 2009 was everybody used to call it Alzheimer's disease. And now people know there's dementias. There's more than one kind. They might not know specifics, but it's broadening. And yet there's still a lot of people out there saying, well, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And, you know, so it's a start though.
What's so interesting is there's no stigma against having cancer. There's no stigma against having other diseases. There's no stigma.
Well, you know, it depends on how you define stigma. I mean, I don't think like dementia and cancer, I don't think anyone says, hey, sign me up. You know, it's not something they want to do.
That's because they have a disease.
Well, I know, but they are
you telling me there's a stigma against having cancer?
That people are treated differently. You asked pretty much. I
believe you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, people are treated differently. And there are people that pull away, just like when people get divorced. Some people pull away because, and it gets back to Harry talking about emotions. Emotionally, they can't deal with that change. They can't deal with maybe they're going to lose somebody. So I think there are stigmas. I don't think it's to the extent people don't get blamed or being told they're faking it, you know, with cancer like you guys get. I think there's a much better understanding of the disease. And there's usually, I think with the cancer, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I will, but I think there's more of a physical look versus, you know, that you're ill, versus with dementia, you know, everybody looks great, you know, so anybody looking at us right now wouldn't be able to tell who has dementia and who doesn't just by looking at us. But with some other diseases, you know, it's more evident. in their being, and not all the time, but at times. But I do think when people get any type of terminal illness, I think there is a stigma to that. Carrie? Mm-hmm.
We talk about education so much,
Mhm.
and I think we have to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be taught how to overcome these stigmas. Now we can sit around and we complain about it. We all see it. I've been called some of the worst names you would ever believe in the past years.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to handle that. But if you insult me now, I'll bring you to tears. I'll bring you down to your knees. And it's because I learned how to handle the stigmas.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what everybody has to do. Everybody has to learn how to handle these stigmas. And until you learn how to handle them, it's going to bother you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to affect your health. Now, as you know, I'm very involved with the Italian group Sentimenta. And they take a more holistic approach to caring for somebody living with dementia. As an example, here in the States, when you get diagnosed, the first thing that happens is your doctor says, here's a prescription. I'll see you in 6 months. Have a good day. But the Sentimenta model says we have to treat the disease, the person. We have to help them find ways to overcome. And adapting to this disease is the most important thing you have to learn. The people that live long lives living with dementia learn all of these things. They learn how to adapt. Like, I don't watch the news anymore because if I start hearing about the Ukraine, I break down. It breaks my heart. Well, honestly, I don't have to know that a hospital was bombed and 150 children were killed. I don't need to know that. Do I care? Of course I care, but I care too much. It affects my life. And I learned that I can't listen to that. I can't be around negative people that bring me down. Okay? If I'm around somebody that is constantly complaining, the first thing I ask him is, what are you doing to help yourself? Well, it's just the way it is. No, it's not. No, it's not. You gave up. I don't want to hear it anymore. Go away. And you have to learn that if you want to live a long life. Yeah. Sad to say.
Yep. Agree. Kate, what are your thoughts on stigma?
Everyone has such great input about what stigma is. I'm like listening, learning. I think that oxymoron. More and more people are beginning to join support groups. Okay, this is my take. For example, I'm an admin in Harris Group, which he's the founder and the CEO, and we have an umbrella under Forget Me Not of almost all the dementias, and we also have fun groups in it, workout groups and everything, because we understand that there's people that just don't want to be classified as just dementia, the name, but you're not who the name is, that doesn't define you.
Mhm.
So there's recipe club, there's fun page and all kinds of things. Well, when I welcome the new members, it's very hard to say, welcome to our group, right? Because it's almost like, oh, welcome to our group. The reason I feel a bit difficult about that is no one wants to meet at the dementia group, but for the support. So when I was first diagnosed, I had nowhere to turn to. And then I Googled dementia groups, whatever, and then I found one group and another one, and which one, I feel comfortable in, and I feel uplifted and fun. So I learn a lot. I'm talking to the people that's still liking my page, and I have not written in 1 year because I cannot string my words together. And what it is after 1 year, but then every day I'm thinking of the people that's waiting to hear from me because I have likes every day, It's like, whoa, it's a year. But what do I do this? I need help. I cannot, write about this. I don't know about stigma. I think they don't even understand the word stigma. I seriously don't think they do. And if they do, and they kind of, criticize us like, oh, you can still talk like you do. I don't think anything is wrong with you. I want to hit them, but I restrain myself. It's just difficult. It's just, I have no word for it. Like Harry handles things differently. All our symptoms are different, every one of us. When somebody gets loud with me, I shrink. I just actually feel and see myself shrinking into nothing. And I don't talk back, and I'm a talker, but I don't talk back. I kind of retreat into myself, and it's like there's a shell that I crawl into, okay? Not everybody feels that way. And I get intimidated, and I totally lose all my words, and I don't know how to fight back. Yet, I found myself fighting back on a couple of occasions because I just felt like my head is exploding, and I've got what they call the ice pick headache that people have with FTD, okay? If I say this to somebody who has another dementia, they wouldn't understand it, but they're not going to say, you don't have dementia. And I can feel the sadness, but I cannot cry, I cannot show my emotions, and that's apathy that I have because I have BVFTD. It's not that I cannot feel, I feel, but the frustration is I cannot express it. So at a funeral, when I don't cry and I just stand there and just my best friend, and I could feel people, like a lot of people looking at me, and I talk to other people, they probably think, well, everybody handles, their grief differently. But no, when we have dementia, there's many things that you don't know. So I am speaking from what I have, my behavior variant, frontotemporal degeneration. Harry comes with his Alzheimer's, and his symptoms are different. He finds other ways to make his life very positive. And I find other ways where my heart leads me. It's not only about dementia, we can do other things. I'm working with children who are abused, who are abandoned, because I have experience with that. So we are all still productive and doing very positive things.
Yep. Well, and I think that that's really important when people see changes. Like you said, you can't express your emotions. It's not that you don't necessarily feel them. You can't express them. I've heard others say they don't feel anything either. So it just depends on, where they are in the progression and the type of dementia that they have.
Right.
And I do think people are starting to figure out that all dementias aren't the same, that it's not just Alzheimer's, it's not just memory loss. But boy, we got a long ways to go in terms of all the other complications that this disease can have. Pam, how about you and stigma? What are your thoughts? You said you're fairly new to your diagnosis.
Yes.
But have you felt stigmatized or that people don't understand?
Well, no, I mean, I've got a group of friends, some in different parts of the country, and we communicate. But, the one who so wants us to fix me is my daughter. She thinks I'm not okay the way I am, and she wants me to, go to these different doctors that, pay thousands of dollars, and it just doesn't make sense to me. He's not helping me.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up a really good point, because I think a lot of stigma has to do with other people not wanting to accept reality. And so they're diverted, and they're trying to cope with it in a different fashion. And I think a lot of people have no idea how much harm or how hurtful that can be to the person, because they really think they're trying to help.
Yeah.
But you had said, well, she doesn't want me to be like this. Well, gosh, just stab me in the heart. I don't want to be like this either. I'm sure it's what everyone else is thinking, but this is my reality and I have to cope with it. And so again, I think sometimes people are so focused on trying to help or trying to fix it. And there's not a fix other than at this point learning to live with it and learning to adapt and still finding purpose in maybe different ways that you didn't prior. But staying connected is, I think, really critical. So thanks for bringing that up. Dale, go ahead, Kate. You had a comment?
Yes, I forgot to mention this earlier on when I talk about welcoming new people. They're getting the support from all these wonderful people from different groups who are like us. We share our, and when I welcome them, it's not that, oh, I am happy that my group is bigger. It is more like I am happy. More people are going out there on the internet and look up groups. So the more people there are who does this, the more educated they are, and they are actually helping themselves also.
Exactly. Karen?
Yeah, just I really appreciate what you said with your daughter, Pam. That I had a whole family whenever I was diagnosed. I've been in 12-step programs, so I knew that there was probably a group on a support group for people who had family members with Alzheimer's or dementias and stuff. And then I got into my own thing. Well, sure enough, there was another group for that, another group for that. And I think when I started letting my family know, my siblings, it wasn't so much, the pain is horrible, on all sides of this is horrible. But for me, and I didn't have it right away, to have these availabilities, these support groups or a phone number that my siblings could call and talk with somebody to let them know that I wasn't the only one, that kind of thing. So I really appreciated you bringing that up. There is help in my opinion, on all sides of this.
Yep. Good point. Dale, how about you? Have you felt stigmatized since your diagnosis?
Well, I do, but I think we can all have, and it's been really good to hear from all of you, because I think all of you know that there's an inner pharmacy. And I would just like to ask all of us, if you ever were on the stage and with the actors that I've gone through, when they're in a downer part, they're sick and they're not having good health. When they're in the upper parts and the happy parts, their physiology changes. And this just isn't just a maybe think that it is, but we can go and do some work on them, and we tell that their chemistry changes. So if any of you here are actors or have been in the theater, and you're in the upper ones that got you feeling well and you love doing that, and you got in the downer ones, did you take that physiology home with you and share it with your family? I'd like to say, if you get your act together and you bring it up where you're where you're laughing or something, or something that you are on. I'm trying to do a survey of actors right now. What group would you like to what act would you like to be in again? What one wouldn't you want to be in again? And what you will know, and if any of you are actors, you will know that you get into the chemistry, physiology of the part you're going to be on stage, and you carry that home. And what can we do that with Alzheimer's?
Well, Dale, I think that's a good point, because one of the things that I hear from so many people living with dementia is even participating in this or running a group or speaking at something. They pull things together and they do really well, and they're very proud of their work, which they should be. But many say that it helps fend off a lot of their symptoms. But when you have to pull that much energy in to kind of lift yourself up and present yourself, you can be exhausted for 2 days after the fact too, from that presentation. But I have heard more and more people say becoming an advocate, taking a stand, having their voice heard, having a purpose has really helped fend off their symptoms, and they felt that they've been able to live longer. I wanted to ask you another question, Dale, and that is because your late wife Annie had dementia too. Did you see people treating her different? Because that's really what stigma comes down to. Did you see people pull away or make comments or treat her different at all?
No, but she was having problems for some time, and she had to go back to be with her kids in Salt Lake City. And it wasn't very long after that she passed away. Mm-hmm. So Annie was really great for me, but she was, unfortunately, she's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, those two were quite the pair, that's for sure.
We were Oli and Lena's when we went to party. I mean, all of these things. And when you change that, your chemistry into the act you're doing, we can now measure it by science that your chemistry is different. And each and every one of us has a divine pharmacy. And we are the pharmacist.
Good. Well, thank you. Anybody else want to add anything else about stigma? Wanted to wrap things up. Kate, you are on mute, but go ahead.
As we're sharing today, I as always, I find myself going off tangent instead of just focusing on stigma, and that is part of my dementia. Okay, and Harry has said that how he feels. So here we are today. This is dementia. How we cope with it is dementia. But I hope that people would understand that after I've come to this chat, I might fall asleep very, very soon because it takes so much energy. But I want to be here, and I'll probably go to bed for the rest of the day.
Well, thank you for spending your energy with us. Go ahead, Karen.
I just wanted real quickly, I think we were talking about the stigma, and for myself, when I'm having somebody, when I need help, I need somebody to work. I call them care partners, work with me, not for me. I need
Yeah.
somebody to do my medications. I need somebody to monitor what I'm doing. I need assistance. And the further along I get, maybe the more I need help, I'm sure. But I need that education on that person's part to know, and I have a perfect person right now. I just can't afford more than 2 hours a week. But she, this looks like trash, but what do you think, Karen? And I'm like, oh, trash, and it's like I had the control. So it makes a difference.
Makes a big difference when you feel like you're in control. And yep.
Our physiology changes when we started this group and now when we're ending this group. And the physiology is different now and it's much better. And it's, I thank you so much for getting into my inner pharmacy. And I hope I can come back again and get another prescription.
Great. Thanks, Dale. Harry, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm fine. I just want to go out and sit on my bench.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice out.
Yep. You wouldn't want to do that in Minnesota. It's going to rain and kind of maybe snow a little
Yes.
bit on and off all day today. So good for
I just
you.
want to say one thing, when you talk about the Oli and Lena jokes, my dad had this great friend who was always so funny. And I'll have to remember that because it's just such a charming thing. So yeah, it's okay to be happy.
Yeah. Well, and Dale and Annie weren't just telling jokes. They dressed up as them. They dressed up as Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy, and they had all kinds of costumes and were just so, as soon as they walked in the door, they were just this bundle of joy, and it just changed the whole room. And I think each and every one of us has that power to do that, which is what Dale was talking about. Coming in with a positive attitude and knowing that, part of it, I think, is knowing that you belong and you have something to offer. And, to me, that's the one thing I want every single person with dementia to understand, that you are still a powerful human being and have much to offer. Karen?
Right. And that other thing about being happy is it's like I'm an all or nothing person. Either I am in bed crying, eating, sleeping, drinking, or I am out partying, But I can be happy just going to the bayfront 3 minutes away and walking my dogs for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And the rest of my day might be shitty, but I was good just for then. So I'm happy enough, little pockets at a time. So.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not something you have to do all day long, 24/7. Emotions are a roller coaster and we all have them. We just have to learn how to move through them.
Right.
So
And
wonderful.
this was a good Zoom. We went right through this. Well,
Yep.
we zoomed.
Goes by fast. Well, thank you all for your time and your insights. I always appreciate it and I always learn something. So until next time, for our audience, I hope you learned something from this and will click, and share this with others. Again, that's the way we bust down stigma, is by sharing information and knowledge. So thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.